let's learn how to tackle reading long words. There are some things you need to know before we go on. A, E, I, O, and U are all vowels. Y is a vowel when it uses its sounds of I, E, or I. The consonants are the rest of the letters, and Y when it has its sound of Y. A syllable is any unit of speech with a vowel sound. Pick a long word and put your hand right below your chin. The number of times your hand drops will tell you how many syllables there are. For example, if we say the word computer, our hand drops 3 times, or we could clap it out. Computer. 3 syllables. An accented syllable is any syllable that we emphasize by saying it a little louder and it has a clear vowel sound. Sometimes we call accented syllables stressed syllables. A schwa is this upside down backwards E-looking thing that you may have seen in a dictionary. The schwa represents a muffled sound, which usually sounds like a short U sound of or sometimes a short I sound of I. The schwa can replace any vowel sound in any words where the syllable is not accented. And an unstressed syllable is one that is not accented. Why does understanding accented syllables matter? Well, let's look at this word. There are 2 common ways that this is said. In some places, people say Caribbean, where the rib is accented, and the first A and the last A schwa or sound like Listen carefully. Caribbean. Notice both these A's schwa. In other areas, people say Caribbean. In both of these pronunciations, the final AN is pronounced un. But in the second pronunciation, we have a clear long A sound, and the third syllable is accented. Listen again. Caribbean versus Caribbean. Here's a word that refers to a type of nut that is similar to a walnut. In some places, people say pecan, where the E schwas, hear the P, pecan, and the A has the broad A sound of ah. In other parts of the United States, people say pecan. One final example is this word. In most of the U.S., people say this word as adult, where the A schwas and the second syllable is accented. Listen again, adult. There are some people that pronounce it adult, where the first syllable is accented, and instead of having a schwa sound, it's a short A. Listen again, adult, adult. Why does all this matter? Well, when you're reading a word and you've tried pronouncing the vowel sounds one way, if it doesn't give you a word you recognize, try a different sound and see if you recognize that. There are 2 more quick things we need to review before we go on. An open syllable ends in a vowel that will have its long sound if it's accented. Right here, we have 2 open syllables. They end in vowels, so we try the long sound, bay. And when a syllable ending in Y is accented, we try a long I sound, by. So we have bay and by. Closed syllables have a consonant after the vowel, and the vowel has the short sound. They can either have the vowel in the middle or at the beginning, like in bat and at. Let's practice with some open and closed syllables before we move on to reading words divided into syllables. In this row, all our syllables end with a vowel, so we will try the vowel's long sound, remembering that the Y will have a long I sound. So we have bay, bee, by, bow, bew, and by. Remember that long U has 2 sounds, U and oo, and which one we use depends on the letter that comes before it. In this row, we have the vowels in the middle of the syllable, so they are closed and we use the short sound. A Y in the middle of a syllable will have a short I. So we have bat, bet, bit, bot, but, and bit. This is not actually a real word, but you can still pronounce it. In this row, we have open syllables, so we are going to use the long vowel sound. Day, dee, die, do, do, and die. Notice that this uses the U sound, bew, and this one uses the oo sound of long U, do. In this row, there's a consonant after each vowel, so we will use the vowel short sound. And again, in this made-up syllable, the Y is going to have a short I sound. Dad, den, did, dot, dust, dit. When you have the letter C, remember that when it's followed by an E, I, or a Y, it will always have its S sound, except for the word soccer. So we have K, C, psi, co, Q, psi. Let's try that again. K, C, psi, co, Q, psi. In this row, our vowels are all followed by consonants, so we try the short sound. And we remember that CH says ch, and Y in the middle of the syllable will have a short I sound. So we have cat, sell, cinch, cot, cut, cyst. A G, when followed by an E, I, or a Y, usually has its soft sound of J, but does not have to. So a C followed by an E, I, or a Y will always have its soft sound of S, except for the word soccer or a few other foreign words. And a G will most of the time, but not always. So let's read the 3 syllables with the red letters, first with our soft sound of J, because it's the most common, and then with the hard sound of G. So we have gay, G, gee, jai, guy, go, gu, jai, guy. In this row, we have closed syllables because there are consonants after our vowels. So we will use the short sounds. And again, the Y will have the short I. So we have gas, gel, get, gin, gig, got, gut, gym. Let's read some words from Webster Speller Table 5. In all of these words, we have prefixes, and prefixes and suffixes are rarely accented in English words. So all of these words are 2 syllables, and the accent will be on the second syllable. So that means we are going to say it a little louder and more clearly. So it's not disband, it's disband. Remember, a double S always says S. So we have dismiss, dissent, distinct, distrust, distract. Did you notice that all of these are closed syllables? So they all have their short vowel sounds? Remember that UR says so we have disturb. And here we have the root word taste, where even though the E is 3 letters from the A still has a long sound. Distaste. In these 3 words, our final syllable uses the silent E, making the vowel 2 letters before it have its long sound. And this E will make the C have its soft sound of S. So we have dislike, disrobe, displace. In all of these words, we have the prefix D. Most of the time when we say the words, it schwas into a short I sound. Like I said before, most vowels that schwa usually take on a short U sound, but in these words, it sounds more like a short I. If people wanted to emphasize the word, they might clearly say the long E, like, I am going to decide to do it. But most of the time when people are speaking quickly, these long E sounds disappear and sound more like a short I because the first syllable is not accented and the second one is. Notice that in all of these words, we have a silent E making the vowel 2 letters before it have its long sound. And the C, when followed by an I, is going to have its soft sound of S. Decide, declare, deduce, define, degrade, denote, depute, derive. Right here we have a word ending in Y in an accented syllable. In most English words, Y at the end of a word has a long E sound. The time when it has a long I sound is when the syllable is accented. So right here we have defy. This syllable phi is accented, so the Y has a long I sound. Let's practice some more 2-syllable words where the second syllable is accented. In all of these words, in the first 2 columns, we have a prefix of com or con. Since prefixes are rarely accented in English, these O's are going to tend to schwa and sound more like a short U rather than a clear ah sound. So it's not going to sound like compute, it's going to sound more like compute, like there is a short U. Complete, consume, confine. Here we have an accented syllable ending in a Y, so we use the long I sound again, comply. Here's a long O, control. Here we have im and in as our first syllable. They are closed syllables because they have consonants after the vowel. And the second syllable in all of these words will be accented. Impend. Notice again that these syllables are closed, so we use the short vowel sound. Impend, implant, impress, imprint, incur, UR says indent, infect, infest, inflict, instill, instruct, and invest. Let's try a few three-syllable words where the first syllable will be accented and the letter A will schwa rather than having a clear long A sound in an open syllable or a clear short A sound in a closed syllable. Our accented syllables will have their long vowel sounds. Diadem. Did you notice we don't say di-a-dem, but di-a-dem? The A schwas instead of having a short sound or a long sound. Dialect. These Y's are not in accented syllables, so they are going to have the long E sound. Notary. Primacy. Vacancy. Vagrancy. Bigamy. Adamant. I want you to stop and divide these 5 words into syllables and try sounding them out. You're going to divide the words between the double consonants. And remember that since these words have the first syllable accented, the Y at the end is going to have a long E sound. And the 2 G's with a Y in both of these words mean that the G will have its hard G sound of G. All right, here's how we split them. We split between the double consonants. Right here, we notice that these are all closed syllables with a vowel in the middle, so the vowel will be short. These syllables end in a Y, but it's not an accented syllable, so it will have the long E sound. Lobby, hobby, jiffy, laggy, saggy. Let's try it with these 5 words. I want you to divide between the 2 consonants. The first syllable in each word will be accented. The second syllable will not, and these unaccented syllables may schwa. All right, did you divide between the N and the V? We have a closed syllable, so we have a short vowel sound, anvil. You could say it very clearly as anvil, but this is one of those words where the unaccented syllable tends to schwa, and the short I tends to turn to a short U. Anvil. We divide between the 2 consonants. We have a closed syllable. All of these are closed syllables, so they use their short sound. Bandit. This is a word where this syllable still clearly has the short I. The same here. Antic. And this word also clearly has a short I. Fabric. In this word, our second syllable will schwa. So instead of coffin, it tends to sound more like coffin. But in both of these words, if you said it with a clear short I, anvil and coffin, people would still understand you. So it's not a problem. Could you do me a favor? If you've watched this far, you obviously liked the video, so please share it with a friend.